Hi, I'm MAcDowell, and I'm a PsyD student at UPEI. And welcome to our next session called Exploring Connections Between Thoughts, Behaviors, and Emotions. So sometimes we have things going on in our lives that bother us, and emotions or feelings can become more and more challenging to manage, or moods that interfere with our abilities to cope day to day, or cause us to react to situations in certain ways that maybe we wish that we could change. To help start to understand this, today we're going to talk about how our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all connected. As you go through this journey of making changes to your health and lifestyle, understanding your thoughts and behaviors and emotions and how they influence each other can really help us understand how we react and why to certain situations, and also recognize areas that we can work on. Understanding how your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are connected can be an important part of setting and achieving goals. So, today I'm going to talk about a concept that comes from cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which may be a familiar term to some of you. It's a type of therapy that's proven to be helpful with all sorts of mood problems like depression, anxiety, anger, panic, and so on. So, this session will introduce some of the skills and concepts used in CBT that can provide some benefit and will help you start to see some links between your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. So, you can see on this slide that we have a situation that happens. Then we have a thought, or we interpret the situation. Then we have an emotion or a feeling based on that thought. And then we usually do something or not do something in response to the feeling or emotion. So, in that previous slide, we saw that concept in a really kind of linear way, which is helpful when you're starting to introduce the concept. But in reality, it doesn't always or usually ever happen in that kind of linear way. All parts are very interconnected. So we want to present it in more of kind of a cyclical or circle type of model, which is really important to show how all of the pieces are connected. So the model on this screen is what we're going to use to work through an example. The other thing that's also part of this model is that I really like how there's that big circle around around the outside, because that really helps us to understand that all of our thoughts and emotions and all of those pieces happen within the context of the situation. The other piece that's in this model is the body sensations or physical reactions. And that is a really important part to the model. And the reason for that is that our body sensations or physical reactions can give us really important information about what is going on inside of us. And it's often something that we ignore, or we don't notice, or we maybe just don't realize that what we're feeling in our body has an important part to play in how we think and feel and act. So, what's most important to understand is that all parts of this model are interconnected or integrated, and changes in any one area will impact the other areas. So, that's why there's all of those little arrows pointing in all different directions, connecting all of the different pieces. So, this is actually true whether you think of it in the positive or negative direction. So, for example, if our thoughts are negative or unhelpful, it usually leads to negative impacts in the other areas. And the same goes for positive thoughts. So, to help us understand how this all works, let's talk about a situation we've probably all experienced in some way, and that's getting caught in traffic. And this can be relevant as a driver or as a passenger. So the situation we'll say is stuck or caught in traffic. So the thoughts that we can have lots of different thoughts, but let's talk about thoughts that might be pretty typical. So maybe the thought is, I slept too late, or I didn't get enough sleep, and it was really hard to get up this morning, and you're, thinking that I just wasn't able to get up with my alarm. I'm always running behind. I'm going to be late for work or an appointment. This is wasting my time. So those are a couple of examples of thoughts. So then what do we tend to do? We might grip the steering wheel. We might start to try to change to the next lane. We don't have lots of lanes here in PEI, but maybe you're in a spot where you might try to shift over to a lane. Or maybe you're just kind of pulling over a little bit to the side to see, can you kind of see what's going on ahead of you, and kind of like, just kind of gripping that steering wheel and kind of feeling, having that kind of behavior that's maybe you honk the horn, or, who knows. And so what are some of the physical feelings that you might think you'd have in that situation? So maybe your shoulders are tensing up, you're coming up towards your ears, maybe your breath starts to kind of shorten, maybe your stomach starts to tighten and your heart starts racing. You're feeling tension kind of all up your arms and in your hands. Maybe your knuckles are kind of getting white if they're on the steering wheel. And so what are some of the feelings or emotions that go with those kinds of body sensations and that behavior? So maybe you're feeling really stressed, maybe you're angry, maybe you're frustrated, maybe you're anxious because whatever it is you're trying to get to, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to be late, I'm not going to make it. So those are some kind of typical behaviors, body sensations, emotions in response to those thoughts that you had. So now we're going to shift a little bit. Still the same situation of being stuck in traffic, but let's change the thoughts that we have. Let's change it to, I didn't realize there was going to be construction in this area. My boss will understand, or the person I'm meeting for the appointment. I can use this time to do something else. So then some behaviors might be, you turn on a podcast that you've been following or meaning to start. Maybe you turn on your favorite music or some relaxing music. Maybe you practice some deep breathing. Maybe you make a list or plan something that you're needing to do, hands-free, of course. So maybe some body reactions to that are, your shoulders relax a little bit. Maybe your breathing kind of regulates, especially if you're doing some deep breathing. Maybe some of the emotions or feelings that you have are kind of more calm or more neutral. We won't pretend that you're jumping for joy because you're stuck in traffic, but maybe you're just you're not having those kind of more kind of negative type or not kind of positive emotions. Maybe you're just kind of calm or kind of neutral. So you can kind of start to see how those different thoughts, even though it's the same situation, but you've had some different thoughts that kind of really affect those other areas, those emotions, the behaviors, the body sensations. It's a really different outcome than it was with the previous situation, the previous slide. So I'm introducing this concept and using that example so that it can help you become more aware of your own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors and physical reactions, and how they're all connected to each other. It's also helpful to be more aware of these things so that you can start to recognize them within yourself. A good place to start is to work on the awareness of your thoughts. We actually have about 70,000 thoughts a day, according to the Cleveland Clinic. And most of these thoughts that we have are what we call automatic thoughts. We're not even aware that we're having them, but they can still have a really big impact on what we feel and what we do or don't do. So, becoming more aware of our thoughts is actually something that you can practice. And it's a really great first step in helping us to understand our feelings and our behaviors, and then be able to start working towards shifting to a more positive or helpful thoughts and feelings and behaviors. So, to summarize everything that we just covered, which is a lot of information, thoughts help to define our emotions or feelings, or what we understand as our mood. Thoughts also influence how we behave, what we choose to do or not do. And thoughts affect our physical reactions or body sensations. And learning how these areas are all connected to each other really can help us understand ourselves better and why we react and feel the way we do in certain situations. And then finally, changes in any area will impact the other areas. So we've focused kind of most on the thoughts because that's a good place to start, but just keeping in mind that changes in any of those areas will have an influence on all of the other areas. So we'll end it there for today. Thank you very much for your attention and your time. If you have any questions about what we've covered today, please bring your questions to Laura or Anjali, and I'm happy to answer as best I can to any of your questions. Thank you very much again, and take care.